So for people that are new to you, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I am a museum consultant here. So I really help museums create more impactful and engaging museum stores. What that means,
Love
yeah,
it.
it's
Go ahead.
just changing those stores up and making them exciting.
And coming from DC, like I love museums. Like I was when I was there the last couple of days, I was like, man, we have some really amazing museums.
Yes.
And when we first met, I thought like, oh, this would be a really great conversation because sometimes I feel like a lot of companies have shifted in the last couple of years of not necessarily always having team members on staff, but looking
Mhm.
at amazing consultants to help them with being able to move forward faster or allowing them to use their knowledge base to help them with hitting their specific goals. Is that what you're also finding in your specific industry?
That's exactly what I'm finding. I mean, I don't know, there haven't been many museum store consultants, right? But now
Mhm.
you're able to utilize these consultants to have a shortcut, really, to
Yeah.
improving your business.
Yeah, I love that. And so, with being a consultant, I would love for you to share, like, what, why are some reasons that somebody would think to even like work with you or not have that person on staff?
I mean, the thing is, there's lots of reasons, right? I like
Mhm.
to say that I come in as that extra manpower. You're going to get that shortcut of my 15 years of knowledge in the industry, first of all, to cut through that understanding, get things done quicker. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you might just not have the bandwidth to do these things. You want to really concentrate on your core items you're working on, things that you can really move your business forward, and this
Mhm.
is one of that you can outsource out and get it taken care of just to that same level.
And with you having the over 10 years of experience, it's for some companies I can imagine or museums, because museums are still businesses, even though they're nonprofit businesses. I feel like there can be the stigma of talking about nonprofits as a business. However, a
Yeah,
nonprofit can't do their mission if they're not making money. So,
exactly. Yeah, I like to say that my job, I work in that specific area called earned revenue, right? It's that
mhm,
spot where all those items that aren't donations, that aren't grants that the museum's getting, helps
yeah,
you out. And you need to have that financial stability to be able to carry out that mission. So
yeah.
it works hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think that's so valuable. So even if you're not in the nonprofit sector, this still pertains to the profit sector and different types of industries when we're talking about outsourcing. Because outsourcing is one of those things that really helps with saving time. Because technically, with what I do as a corporate event planner, companies are outsourcing their needs to do events. Instead of, I find that sometimes the people that choose to work with us is because their office staff might be limited on time or resources, or just sometimes it just takes way too much effort on them and takes them away from the things that they really need to be focusing on. So, even from a nonprofit sector, would you
Mhm.
say that that can also be something that people are looking at when they're evaluating to outsource their services?
100%. When you're starting something off, you're maybe starting at level one and trying to get deep into it.
Yeah.
With a consultant, you're bringing someone in who's already ahead of that
Hmm.
on the level. You don't have to have that knowledge gap
Yeah.
of having to learn all that space. We can start you off right in, walk in, and be able to assess what's happening a little faster and help you with that efficiency of getting to your goal faster.
And I would assume that over the time period that you've been in your specific industry, you've seen certain things change.
Mhm.
And that has probably been able to help you with helping the people that you support. If you don't mind sharing, what are some things that you have personally seen shift and change in your specific industry?
Oh, yeah. Well, working in museum stores. First off, museum stores really came into being in the 1980s. went to the forefront when those budgets were getting cut and you needed that money. It
Mhm.
was even more important to have it. So things have changed quite a bit from the products you're carrying. Now you're
Yeah.
selling to Gen Z, you're selling to Gen
Mhm.
Alpha. It's a whole new game out there.
Yeah.
Or you're now buying a lot of these items online or having online stores.
Yeah.
That isn't something new to add on. This is kind of expected. So all
Mhm.
those pieces that maybe you're not keeping up with the trends in the industry. I
Yeah.
have to because I'm jumping from museum to museum and bringing them forward to really catch them up with what's been happening.
And I would think that that would even apply if someone maybe has a retail store,
Hmm.
and it would be even beneficial for them to reach out to you, because let's say it's a mom and pop store that's always carried X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
However, as people are growing and aging, those individuals, if you're not thinking about trends and habits that are changing, someone may be unknowingly expediting the closure of that business, be it if
Yeah,
it's a museum or storefront, if they're not present to some of those habits that are changing within the retail space in general.
exactly. I like to say that it's museum retail I work in primarily, but it's also specialty retail in
Yeah.
that space. But when you're so busy getting that business to survive, you might
Mhm.
not have the time to look at the trends, might
Yeah.
not have the time to stay up on what's happening in LA, Atlanta, New York, all of these spaces. But
Mhm.
that's my job to do. And that really helps save you that time.
I'm glad that you said that, because I would assume that the trends would change depending on where people are located as
Mhm.
well. Is that correct?
It's really true. Who is your audience?
Yeah.
Has your audience changed? Some
Yeah.
cities have changed a lot in the past 10 years. I know
Mhm.
I'm here in Dallas and you it's unrecognizable from 10 years ago the
Yeah.
way it is.
Yeah. Because that is, you know what, as you're saying this, I probably was not that present to, if a location was there 10 years ago and you have everything geared towards a specific demographic.
Mhm.
However, the trend in that area, from if this is more transient, is it more locals, what age brackets,
Yep.
all of those things make such a huge impact in who is coming to it. Because if someone's an hour and a half away, because now the demographic, you had started this museum or this retail space 5 years ago, now they're in a different space of their life where they're like, oh, we're out in the
Mhm.
suburbs. And so now you're like, I'm geared towards and I'm marketing towards X type of client. However, if your client is no longer in that area, and I actually did a post about this on my threads yesterday, I was like, a great business in the wrong area will make you think that it's not a good business. In reality, it might be
Yes.
changing who that client is, or thinking about where you're located and making a change there.
Yeah.
Is that something you think that people should really do with evaluating their museums or just their retail spaces in general?
I absolutely agree. That's a great insight because your store can't stay stagnant. Your business can't be stagnant. You're either going with your audience, changing with them, or you're
Yeah.
having to bring on that audience and find them elsewhere so
Yeah.
they know where you're at. Um, so you can't really sit back and let build it and let them and have them come to you, right?
Yeah.
uh, it's a lot more involved, especially with any changes that we're having here to
Yeah.
stay relevant in their eyes.
Yeah. What would be to you, since you've been in the industry so long, what has been the most um, unexpected change that you have found in your specific industry just in the last 5 years?
Ooh, how quickly technology has probably been taken on
Mm,
by that area. It can be like moving a tanker sometimes
mm,
when you're trying to have change in nonprofits and large businesses. Getting that one change to happen can
yeah.
online stores. I don't think 10 years ago anybody would
Yeah.
have predicted how quickly that happened. But with COVID, they had to.
Yeah.
They had to
Yeah.
change.
And that's so true. Because I think that even for something as simple as ChatGPT, like we're like, oh, this is kind of cool. But just seeing how now people can integrate it into their business in different ways to just make things even be more efficient. And something to me, like when I think of technology, technology doesn't always have to be the extremes of AI. It
Yeah.
can just be with something as simple, but can often be overlooked, I think, in specific business types or industries, is an email list. Like a
Yeah.
lot of company, like to me, that's not fancy. However, people don't think of it as much as I think that they should when it comes
Yeah.
to re-engaging certain brackets of people. Is
Yeah.
that something that you found that that has even started to be embraced a little bit more in your specific industry?
Absolutely. I think the value in that, you don't realize the value of it until you realize you don't have an email list, right?
Yeah.
And what it
Yeah.
takes to build that up. And when it comes I to AI, I recently did a talk on AI about just those practical things. It doesn't have to be life-changing robots and whatnot. It can
Yeah.
take the notes for you in your meeting.
Yeah.
It can identify if a product that is supposedly handmade happens to be, in 100 other shops and made somewhere else. Things like that that you might not think of with AI, but it saves you so much time and so much money in the long run.
Yeah. And I'm glad that people are learning how to integrate AI and
Mhm.
technology into their businesses, especially this day and age where I feel that it really requires for us to look at ways to improve efficiency and optimizing our operations. I think that that really is the core for most businesses, regardless of what industry that they're in. And if it's
Mhm.
a for-profit or nonprofit, everyone is wanting to make sure the time that they have is being used the most effectively, and
Mhm.
that it's, especially when we're paying someone either on staff or outsourcing, we're in the space of like, how do we make it go, like how do we make things happen faster
Yeah.
and correctly, because it can happen fast, but if there's a whole bunch of mistakes, it's not worth it.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. Why make more work? Because we're all trying to squeeze more out of the same amount of time, squeeze
Hmm.
more out of maybe even fewer staff that we have on hand, and
Yes.
that those efficiency points. That's one of the fun items that being a consultant is. You get to come in, look at the entire landscape, and help them out to save that time. Uh, you know. And make it a little more efficient, not just for the higher ups, for everybody top down.
Yeah.
Because if something can be taken off of your plate with efficiency, you have more time to do those money making items, to do your services and everything else.
Yes, I agree. And that leads perfectly into my next question. What are some, and just off of your experience, what are some tasks or functions should businesses consider outsourcing first to maximize the impact in their business?
Really, I think it's sitting down and thinking strategically, first of all,
Yeah,
about what your pain points are. What are
yeah,
those pain points that are wasting you time and that you think you can get more money out of perhaps, but just don't know how to?
yeah,
Talking to a consultant and outsourcing those pieces can help you get to just get that solved for yourself so you can spend time on what your actual business is.
yeah,
Your business isn't being, for most of us, your business isn't being efficient. That's not your only business. You have way more on your plate.
yes.
So see what you can take off your plate that can help you out more than anything.
Yeah, and I would even give this other tip as well. It's like if you're not quite sure what is your pain point,
Mm,
like take the time to just brainstorm or
yes.
talk to an outsider. You can have a consultant, or even if it's someone that knows certain aspects of your business, that can be a family member or friend saying, hey, this is what I'm focusing on. These are some of the things I'm doing. and just drill into like what is the real issue, because I found even when people have worked with me as a consultant with helping them build out their CRM system, they think that, oh, this is the problem. In reality, there's a whole bunch of other things that are wrong. And they're thinking like, oh, if I have Jesse complete my system, that it fixes everything. The system, like there's so much fraud. Like,
such a good point.
yeah. I'm like, how are you marketing your business? Where are these people? You know, like all of those things, because you can have amazing products inside of a retail store, but if we're not marketing or having clarity on how we're re-engaging our audience, those parts, what will happen is that they'll think, if I worked with this consultant, hopefully the consultant challenges you to think a little bit more. However, still, regardless if you have a consultant or not, I think that it's important to listen to someone when you are getting this feedback, because sometimes I feel that especially when we're acting as consultants, if we work with someone that's been doing it for so long, they either can be very receptive to blind spots that are there, or it can be that they want to ignore that there are blind spots and they're wanting to focus on something else. And I think for us as consultants, or if you decided to hire one, is being open and receptive, because if it was working, then we wouldn't need to talk to someone. So if there, like, that's always the biggest indicator. If there was not a problem, then we would not be talking to someone. However, if there is a problem, there's no problem with there being a problem, because I feel as a business grows and matures, there are going to be hiccups. There are going to be some adjustments, because it's not this straightforward path. Because if you're doing a certain amount of, visits at a museum and you're having a certain amount of traffic, and all of a sudden if you have to surge, then you're going to have to adjust maybe on how quick you buy products for your, or sourcing or communication, or how much you cover. Like all of those things are key. I guess, like for you, then, is that something that you even try to talk to people about when they are working with you?
Oh yeah, I always highlight that my services are for people, for like institutions who are ready and okay for change.
Yeah.
That you have to be ready to listen, to take that in, and to realize that I'm not an expert on everything, and neither are they. But we
Yeah.
can be that exact balance for each other, so I can help them out in the space they need. And
Yeah.
acknowledging that is a lot of the battles, right? To
Yeah.
getting them to getting that those pain points, those problems fixed, figuring out what those goals are.
Yeah.
And that goal, like you were saying, might not the goal might not be a direct indicator of that problem. It might be a larger problem there that we have to face together.
Yeah.
But having that ability to take on change is huge. It's huge. It makes everyone's work a lot easier.
Yeah. I agree, because one of the things that I try to write down in my journal, and something that I became present to years ago, is that I wanted to have a space where collaboration is embraced.
Yeah.
And I think that when we are in business and we're looking to outsource or work with someone, or even if we have team members, are we creating a space where people can add value? And the thing is that when people add value, that is better than you shutting everything down and not creating a space where people can feel as if they're able to collaborate. And then they're just there. And then you get what you get, and you can't really be upset with the result that comes from that.
No, yeah, exactly. Once you shut all that down, who wants to? There's no buy-in, right? There's
Yeah.
no buy-in to wanting to move forward and help. And so, yeah, I love collaborating with folks and kind of pulling out those pieces that maybe they've been hiding that
Yeah.
thought for years now because no one wanted to hear it then. But now bringing that in and taking it to action, it's part of the bigger solution.
Yes. And so I have a question for you. In your experience, what are some of the key benefits that you have seen from working with people that have decided to outsource their services to you?
Really, it's been a lot of these spaces that decide to outsource with me to work with me might not have had a background in this. So
Mhm.
they're starting off going, I want to do great work. I want to be able to supply a beautiful retail experience, visitor experience. But I'm not quite sure how to start. And if I start, it's going to take a while. So I realize that you can help that, cut that down, and really be a leader in the space for me and a mentor in the space so that once I leave, that impact continues on.
Mhm.
So that has really been huge to being able to go in, fix, have some solutions, but also have it carry on past me because
Yeah.
I'm invested in those spaces. If I'm consulting with you, I'm doing it because I really would love to do that, and I want to
Yeah.
see you win.
Yeah, I love that because I think that it's important for any kind of consultant is to help with empowering people.
Mhm.
Like you still want a rapport and a relationship, of course. It's not necessarily always to um, create this space where you're working yourself out of business. It's not always
Exactly.
that. And it depends on what type of service you have. So even for those of you that are watching this interview and you have a service-based business, I think it comes down to having clarity. Am I creating this structure and this system that I'm supporting people so that they can go on beyond me? Or are we creating this collaborative partnership that we
Mhm.
can go forward together and continue to grow?
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like either is wrong. It just comes down to the type of service you're offering to your specific client.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really both, I think, are about showing that value of your
Yes.
work
Yeah.
because working together and collaborating there is adding that the value of understanding. And then if you're letting them be empowered to move on, I think it's even more empowering for them when they realize the next step they have to go and
Yeah.
they come back to you to be able to work with you to take on that next level up in their business.
Yes. Very, very true. So I have one more last question before we wrap up for today.
So
So
quickly.
I would love to know what are some steps you think that a business should take when selecting the right consultant to potentially outsource a service to or need to?
I really think it's do your research.
Yeah.
Have they worked in this space before?
Mm.
Are they kind of businesses have they worked with before? Talk to those if you can,
Yeah.
and really sit down and talk to them about what you need, what they can provide, and what the goals are for your business. So it's not just just one choice. Talk to others if you can. Of course, some niches don't have uh, dozens and dozens of consultants,
Yeah.
but having that conversation and being able to create that trust that they will be working with you is imperative.
I love it. So for anyone that would want to connect with you, what are the best ways for them to connect and outreach to you?
Yeah, definitely visit my website. It's melodycabanconsulting.com or reach out to me on LinkedIn here. Reach out, say hello, especially if you're a museum person.
I love that. Well, I definitely appreciate you speaking with me today. I hope people are able to look at in their side of their business and think about if I am going to outsource with someone, what are some of the things that I need to? How do I go about doing this? How do I select the right person? And then how to have success with this? Because ultimately, when you find the right consultant and person to partner and outsource, it can just drastically shift your business and it saves you
Mhm.
time.
Yes.
It saves so much time because nothing I've seen when people have hired individuals that have no clue to support them and they've lost time and they've lost money. But by working
Yeah.
with the right person, it can make such a huge difference.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation.
It's my absolute pleasure. All right, I'll make sure everyone that I have in the description ways to connect with her. And thank you again for everything.